A woman can silence her desire, but her body never does. You could be standing right in front of her, talking about anything, and yet there's something in the air, in her gaze, in the way she crosses her legs, that screams what her words don't dare to say. And if you don't know how to read those signals, it's not that she doesn't want you, it's that she'll end up wanting someone who does. Because when a woman is hungry, truly hungry, for touch, for skin, for masculine dominance, she won't say it, she'll show it. And if you're asleep to that, you go from being a possibility to just a friend. Today, I'm going to show you the 9 most hidden, most physical, most primal signs that reveal when a woman has already chosen you, even if she doesn't say a word. And let me warn you, the last one won't just shake you, it'll show you that many times she already gave herself to you, but you just didn't know how to take her. I'm Celia, and if you've ever lost a woman without knowing why, this video is going to explain everything. Have you ever wondered why she looks at you, but doesn't really see you? You're right there in front of her, talking, telling her something, even touching her. And yet, there's this invisible distance, like your words don't land, like her mind is somewhere else. But then one day, you see how she looks at another man, and that's different. That's when her body responds. Her eyes don't blink. They lock in. They dilate. They light up. Why not with you, and yes, with him? Because female desire doesn't come from affection. It comes from impact. And if you've stopped impacting her, she's stopped wanting you. When her eyes don't blink, but her desire does. Because a woman's gaze is either her first betrayal or her first surrender. There's no in between. If a woman wants you, her pupils will say it before her lips do. She stares without blinking, not out of curiosity, but because she's caught. Her nervous system goes still because her body is anticipating what it hopes will happen. That moment doesn't last more than 3 seconds. But it's all you need to know if her fire belongs to you, or if you lost it without even noticing. I remember a man once told me, "My woman looks at me, but it's not the same look anymore." And you know what the saddest part was? It wasn't hate, it wasn't anger, it was emptiness. It was neutrality. A woman can argue, scream, even insult you, and still want you, but when her gaze goes dim, when she blinks all the time, when she won't hold your eyes, what died wasn't love, it was desire. And without desire, you're no longer her man. You're just her habit. The unblinking stare is a primitive signature, a biological code, because when a woman desires, she goes still. She freezes not out of fear, but out of surrender. Her body gets ready. Her pupils dilate. Her breathing shifts. All of it happens in silence. But if you know how to look, you'll see it. If you're awake, you'll notice. And if you ignore it, you'll lose. Not because she chose to, but because her body already did. If you don't recognize that look when it appears, you lose her, because she won't hold it for long. She'll suppress it, she'll play it down, she'll hide the desire behind a cold smile or a moral excuse. But if you, as a man, catch her in that second, then there's no turning back. You lit her up, you left your mark, you became the man who not only listened, but understood. And this is where so many fail, because they try to win her over with flowers, with lines, with logic, when what she really wants is an impact, a tremor, a steady gaze that pierces through her and says, without words, "I know what you're feeling, and I'm not letting you get away." If you can't hold a woman's gaze when she desires you, then she won't hold on to that desire. She'll repress it, bury it, and give it to someone who knows how to handle it. Don't expect her to tell you. A woman never admits she's melting inside, but if you learn to read her eyes, you'll never need words again, because it's all there in her gaze. The yes, the no, and the make me yours, but make it look like I was the one who gave in. That's the game, and if you don't know how to play it, you'll end up watching from the sidelines while another man dares to take what you didn't. If you've already understood what a woman's gaze reveals when she desires, then you know the body speaks before any words do. But the look is just the beginning. It's the spark. What comes next is more tactile, more intimate, and easier to disguise. Because many women can glance without being noticed, but very few can control what their body does when they're near a man who lights them up. And this is where one of the most revealing signs comes in, one that most men completely overlook, the accidental touch that isn't so accidental. We've arrived at the second key point in this video, that moment when she touches you for no apparent reason. Your arm, your shoulder, your leg. She nudges you playfully when she laughs, fixes your clothes, runs her hand over your neck like it's just a friendly gesture. And if you're asleep, you'll take it as courtesy, as trust. But it's not courtesy, it's hidden desire. It's her body asking for the permission her mind still doesn't dare to give. Because a woman who doesn't want you keeps her distance. Her body language becomes cold, predictable, neutral. But a woman who desires, invades, closes the gap, looks for physical excuses to justify what she's already feeling inside. From the most honest lens of female psychology, this isn't random. It's a test. A woman who touches you when she doesn't have to is testing the waters. She doesn't just want to see how you'll react. She wants to feel if you can hold that tension without falling apart, because female desire isn't weak, it's fierce, but it's also clever. A woman won't leap if she doesn't know you can catch her. So she brushes against you, she probes, and if you pull away, if you act like a clueless boy who doesn't get what's happening, she loses interest. Because for a woman, poorly channeled desire turns into shame, and shame kills the fire. Stoicism teaches that true mastery isn't repression, it's the intelligent use of instinct. And here, my friend, is where you apply that. It's not about throwing yourself at her or holding back, it's about holding the moment with strength. If she touches you, you don't pull away. But you don't pounce either. You stay, present, unshaken, like a man who knows exactly what that touch means, but won't throw himself away over a single sign. That's the difference between a man with purpose and a man who just reacts. So many men come to me saying, "I don't get it. She seemed interested and then suddenly pulled away." And when I ask what they did when she touched them, when she got closer than necessary, the answer is always the same. Nothing. I thought it was casual. No, it wasn't casual. It was her body begging for a firm gesture, a subtle acknowledgement, a look that said, "I felt you, and I'm right here, if you dare to go further." But you said nothing, did nothing, so she felt exposed and shut down. A woman can forgive you for not understanding her, but she won't forgive you for not feeling her, for not being able to read her most intimate language. Because the accidental touch isn't a mistake, it's a confession. It's her body saying what her lips can't. And if you don't get it, if you don't validate it with your presence, with your poise, with your grounded masculine energy, she'll leave. Not because she didn't want you, but because she didn't find a man strong enough to hold her. And that, my dear, has no do-over, because there are gestures a woman will only make once. And if you don't respond with clarity, if you're not present as a man, then the desire fades. It doesn't leave out of anger, it leaves out of disappointment. Because what she wanted was to be read, not pursued, read, and you didn't know how. After understanding how her body speaks before her mouth, and how that touch that seems casual is really a disguised confession, there comes a moment when female language becomes even more subtle and even more revealing. It's no longer about what she does with her body, it's about how she says it. Because when a woman starts speaking to you with a different voice, she's no longer thinking, she's desiring. We've arrived at the third point of this video, the voice that turns soft and wet. Not every man notices it, but when a woman lowers her tone, when her voice becomes slower, deeper, wetter, yes, wetter, something has shifted. She's no longer speaking to communicate. She's speaking to seduce without making it obvious. A woman's voice adapts to desire just like her body. It relaxes, it yields, it becomes almost liquid. Because when a woman wants a man, she doesn't need to shout. She only needs to wrap him up. And she does it with words that don't matter, but sound like an invitation. This is one of the most primal strategies of attraction, and it works because sound goes straight to the limbic system, the part of the brain that doesn't think, it only feels. If she talks to you like that, and you don't catch it, you become emotionally deaf. A man who hears the content, but not the tone. And if you only listen to what she says, without feeling how she says it, you lose the game without even realizing. Now let me give you a clear strategy. Next time a woman speaks to you with that voice, and trust me, you'll recognize it because it feels different, more intimate, slower. Don't respond with logic. Don't answer like it's just another chat. Shift your pace too. Lower your tone. Respond with short phrases. Use silence as a tool. Because silence, in the middle of a conversation with tension, isn't empty. It's contained fire. And if you learn to play with that fire without over-talking, without breaking the moment, something opens up in her that she can no longer shut down. Because she feels you're on the same frequency, not with words, with energy. And at that point, there's no turning back. Here's a real example. In a session, a married woman in her 40s told me she couldn't resist a coworker anymore. And when I asked her why, she gave me a brutal answer. He doesn't say sweet things, but when he talks to me, I already feel naked. What drew her in wasn't what he said. It was how he said it. It was his ability to keep his tone low, to hold the moment with calm, to use silence like an invisible embrace. And that woman, who hadn't desired her husband in years, was melting over a man who hadn't even touched her. You can be that man, but for that you need presence. You need to know that when a woman lowers her voice, she's turning up the heat. And if you don't match that frequency, you lose her. Because nothing turns a woman off more than a man who responds with excitement when she's speaking in slow burn. This isn't about reacting. It's about holding. About being in the moment like a man who doesn't need to raise his voice to lead. Because true dominance starts with a whisper. Before we move on, take a moment. If this video has already shown you things you'd never noticed before, hit like and subscribe. That way, I'll know you're awake. Let me know where you're watching from. Because there are still deeper truths to come, and the final sign will be the one you'll never be able to ignore. Once you see it, you won't be able to go back to being the man you were. If you've already understood that a woman's voice can be a sweet trap for the ears, now you need to notice what isn't said, but shown. Because there comes a moment when a woman's body shifts without her even realizing it. And if you're not awake, you'll miss it like so many others. We've reached the fourth point of this video, the language of her legs when no one's watching. Yes, her legs. Because when a woman wants you, her legs don't lie, even if her mouth tries to. This is where most men get it wrong. They think desire shows up in the big gestures, a kiss, a touch, a confession. No. Real desire slips through the smallest details, and leg language is one of the oldest, most honest, and most overlooked, because no one ever taught men how to look down without feeling guilty. But if you don't look, you don't see, and if you don't see, you don't understand, and if you don't understand, you lose. A woman who crosses and uncrosses her legs several times during a conversation isn't doing it because she's uncomfortable. She's doing it because something in her body is adjusting to desire. Because that lower zone, yes, that one, starts to activate. It gets wet, it heats up, and she, without knowing why, begins to move, to shift, to play with her ankles, to show the sole of her foot. These are small, involuntary physical signs, but powerful ones. Her body starts to want to open up, and she hides it behind gestures that seem innocent. The biggest mistake many men make here is not daring to look. They're so afraid of seeming crude or disrespectful that they lower their gaze instead of lowering it with intention. It's not about looking with lust. It's about observing with awareness. Like a man who doesn't ask for permission to exist, because if you're sitting with a woman who crosses her leg toward you, showing you her thigh, her foot, her calf, and you don't respond with steady masculine energy, you're unconsciously rejecting her desire. And that cools her down, because she might not say it, but she needs you to read it, to feel it, to know that you're not talking to a friend, but to a woman who's starting to imagine you inside her. You know why this mistake is so damaging? Because it doesn't just kill the moment's desire, it kills your masculine identity. It turns you into a man who doesn't allow himself to see what's right in front of him. And in the female subconscious, that reads as weakness, as cluelessness, as emotional passivity. A woman can't surrender to a man who can't decode her most basic language, because if you can't read her legs, you won't be able to read her soul. I've worked with women for over 20 years, and I can tell you this: when a woman crosses her leg toward a man and gets no reaction, she feels silently rejected. It doesn't matter if you later tell her you want her, you've already shut her down, because feminine desire needs a mirror. It needs validation, not with words, but with presence, with a firm look, with a shift in your posture, with that subtle gesture that says, "I felt you, and I'm right here." And if you miss that because of fear, guilt, or false ideas of misunderstood respect, you're sabotaging yourself. You're repressing not just your desire, but your ability to connect with the deepest part of a woman, because her legs speak before her mouth. And if you want her to truly open up, you need to be willing to see without guilt, to feel without fear, to act with composure. Because in that small gesture, that leg adjusting, that foot lifting, is the door to real desire. And if you don't walk through it, someone else will, someone who knows how to see. We're now at the 5th point in this video, and it's one of the hardest to spot, because it shows up wrapped in sweetness, in playfulness, in complicity. But it's not. It's a test, a provocation. And if you don't get it, if you don't know how to respond, you lose more than respect. You lose position. Today we're talking about when she interrupts, just to see if you'll take control. A lot of men think a woman who interrupts is just being friendly, impulsive, or maybe a little insecure. She's not. When a woman desires a man, she interrupts to test him, not out of malice, out of hidden desire. She wants to see if you have the strength to set the pace, if you can look her in the eye and, with one word or one gesture, take back control of the conversation and the moment. Because her interruption isn't about chaos, it's about hierarchy. And if you can't assert yourself, if you laugh it off nervously, if you give up your ground, you lose. In that second, you stop being the man she wants to follow and become the one she knows she can lead. This is where most men fail without even realizing it, because they've been emotionally tamed, taught to be soft, to be understanding, to let her speak so she doesn't feel bad. But that doesn't turn a woman on, it turns her off. Because a woman who interrupts with desire wants one thing: to be silenced without being hurt. She wants you to look at her, calm and grounded, and say with a steady smile, "I'm not finished yet." And if you can't do that, if you feel guilty correcting her, if you hand over control every time she cuts in, you're taking a back seat in your own story. And a man without a clear voice becomes invisible. The consequences of missing this are brutal. You end up being the one who listens, who comforts, who's always there, but never the one she craves. Because in her mind, you're emotional support, not a leader. And every interruption you allow without setting boundaries is a quiet surrender of your authority, not through force, not through dominance, through presence, through clarity. Because female desire is wild, but it needs structure. And that structure is either set by you or by someone else. Can this be reversed? Yes, but not with memorized lines or fake confidence. It's reversed with a mindset, with a presence that says, "I know who I am and I don't need to prove it." Because a grounded man doesn't dominate. He holds his ground. And if she crosses a line, he doesn't react from the wound. He responds from his center. He doesn't argue. He doesn't fold. He doesn't seek approval. He just sets the pace. And that, in a woman's language, turns her on more than 1,000 compliments. So what mindset do you need to adopt? The mindset of a man who no longer needs to be liked to feel worthy. A man who knows his words carry weight, who knows his gaze has direction, who knows his energy isn't something he hands out. It's something that commands attention just by being there. Because if you can't hold your space in a conversation without her taking the spotlight, how are you going to hold space in a relationship where desire needs to stay alive? How can you lead a connection if you can't even lead a sentence? When she interrupts you, she's not disrespecting you. She's sizing you up. And if you don't measure up, she'll never look at you the same way again. Because for a woman, respect and desire are deeply linked. If she respects you, she wants you. If she doesn't, she'll just listen, and you weren't born to be listened to. You were born to be felt, to be wanted, to be the man who doesn't crumble in front of a smile, but stays grounded through any test, even when that test shows up disguised as a game. If you've understood what a woman's interruption really means in the context of desire, then you already know that many of the soft little phrases she throws out aren't random, they're bait, and if you don't know how to read them, you become the fish that bites the hook, thinking it's food. Female desire, once it's lit, expresses itself in ambiguous ways, not direct, because she needs to protect her image while feeding her fantasy. And if you don't know how to decode those lines, you'll get caught in a game that looks like connection, but is actually subtle emotional manipulation. We're at the 6th point of this video, the hidden confession disguised as a silly question. Picture it. You're with her, maybe in a light, casual conversation. Everything feels innocent. Then suddenly, she drops one of those questions that seem to come out of nowhere. Do you think guys can tell when a woman wants them? She says it with a smile, like it's just curiosity. But it's not. That line didn't come from nowhere. That question exists because her desire is already active, because she's already crossed a line in her mind. But she's not ready to own it. Not yet. So she needs to toss you that question as if she's talking about other women, when really, she's talking about herself. This is the moment where most men fail. They laugh. They change the subject. They answer logically. But what she's doing isn't an intellectual test. It's an emotional rehearsal. She's saying, I already feel something, but I want to know if you're man enough to pick up on it without me spelling it out. If you miss it, if you don't give her a grounded, masculine, direct response, she cools off, because she feels like she exposed too much, like she jumped ahead, and you weren't strong enough to hold the moment. Do you know what happens when you miss this code? You end up stuck in a pattern where she's always in control. She throws double-meaning phrases, you miss them, and later you wonder why she pulled away, why she stopped texting, why she became distant, because she tested you, and you failed, because in that moment when she was cracking the door open, you unknowingly shut it, with your innocence, with your lack of presence, with your need for clear answers, in a space where everything is suggestion. This isn't a game for the faint of heart, because a woman who drops a silly question laced with desire doesn't want a rational answer. She wants an energetic affirmation. She wants to feel that you saw her, that you know, that you don't need her to say it out loud. Because when you respond with the same energy, without fear, without anxiety, something happens that very few men ever trigger. She lets go. Not because you asked her to, because she feels she no longer has to hide. But if you can't hold that tension, if you respond awkwardly, superficially, or worst of all, with sarcasm, she withdraws. She shuts down. She tells herself, he's not the one. And just like that, she returns to her world, and you become the friend, the nice guy, the safe man who poses no emotional or sexual risk. And if you're not a risk to a woman, you're nothing. The hidden confession disguised as a silly question is the softest and most dangerous form of surrender, because if you don't catch it, you lose the chance to have her open up from her most authentic place. And if you do catch it, but freeze because of fear, doubt, or insecurity, then the problem isn't her. The problem is you. Because a man who can't read a woman's hidden language is destined to repeat the same story over and over again, connections that felt real but never became anything, because he didn't know how to step in when the door was already ajar. Once you understand that soft questions aren't curiosity, but hidden desire, you can no longer see women as innocent creatures waiting for you to guess everything. Female desire speaks in whispers, in tiny gestures, in teasing disguised as play. And if you're not awake, if you don't know how to read what's happening beneath the surface, you become the right guy, but invisible. But there's one more sign, the quietest, the most intimate, the most final. We're at the 7th point of this video, the sudden pause that isn't silence, it's an unspoken invitation for a kiss. Picture the moment. You're talking. Everything's flowing. She laughs, looks at you, moves closer, and suddenly, she goes quiet, looks off into space, twirls her hair, goes still for no reason. It's not shyness, it's not distraction, it's her mind already crossing a line, her body already imagining the touch, the kiss, the moment. But she's not going to ask for it, ever. Because for a woman, real desire shows up as stillness. It hides in those few seconds where nothing seems to be happening, and yet everything is. And if you're not grounded, if you don't know how to hold that pause without killing it with a joke or some nervous chatter, you ruin it. Because that silence is not random. It's an opening. It's her way of saying, now, without words. And if you can't step into that space, with calm, with composure, with direction, you lose her. Not because she didn't want you, but because you didn't know how to lead the moment, because you broke the tension with a joke, with a comment that didn't belong, with insecurity disguised as charm. This is the final test, because there's no clearer sign than a woman sitting in complete silence, looking at you as if waiting for something she's not going to name. And if you don't see it, if you don't act on it, she learns something. That with you, she can't surrender. That with you, she can't let go. That with you, there's no space for real desire, only for conversation. And that cools her off, turns you into just another man who was close, but never made it in. The transformation begins when you realize you don't need her to spell it out, that it's enough to look, to feel, to act from your center, because that silence isn't empty, it's contained fire. And the man who doesn't step into it gets burned without knowing it. He sits next to a woman who was already open, and who had to close herself because he didn't know what to do. The change doesn't lie in what she does, it lies in you, in your ability to hold the moment without breaking, in your steadiness to move when everything else stops. Because it's in that split second, when the world goes quiet, that a real man steps forward. He doesn't ask permission, he doesn't hesitate, he doesn't second guess. He simply steps in, with his gaze, with his presence, with a soul that's already decided. Because he knows if he doesn't, no one else will. Once you understand that a sudden pause might be an invitation disguised as silence, you can't keep expecting signals to come wrapped in clarity. A woman won't tell you what she wants, she'll show you. And if you don't see it, she won't repeat it. Because female desire, when it's not validated, turns into disappointment. And there's one physical sign that says it all, even before she realizes it herself. We've reached the 8th point of this video, the change in her skin that even she can't control. When a woman starts touching her neck, brushing her chest, fanning her collarbone with her hand, or playing with her earrings while talking to you, she's not uncomfortable. She's turned on. Her skin responds to desire before her mind even catches up. Her sympathetic nervous system is firing. The temperature in her lower body rises, her chest tightens, and she needs to cool off. But she's not going to say that. She's going to touch herself, shift in her seat, try to regulate with gestures what her body is already screaming from within. And if you don't get it, if you ignore it and keep talking like nothing's happening, you become emotional furniture, a man without radar, without instinct, without energy. This is where you need to act, not with sweet words, not with practiced pickup lines. Acting means noticing, holding her gaze, shifting your energy, slowing down, moving in just a little closer, creating tension. You don't need to touch her. You just need to let her feel that you saw her, that you understood her, that without her saying a word, you already know what's going on. Because if you can do that, if you can look at her when she touches herself, and do it with steadiness, with calm, with direction, desire has no way out. It spills over. But if you keep acting like the good guy, if you look away for fear of seeming inappropriate, if you pretend you didn't see it in the name of respect, then she learns one thing, that her desire has no place with you, that you're not the man who can handle her fire, and she shuts down, not because she didn't feel it, but because you didn't know how to hold it. The mindset you need here is the mindset of the awakened man, not the reactive one, not the needy one, the present one, the one who doesn't flinch when a woman heats up, the one who doesn't crack when she becomes vulnerable through her body, the one who doesn't need confirmation because he already knows. You can't wait for a woman to validate your desire. You are the one who must validate hers, with presence, with energy, with composure. Touch your chest as you hear this. You are the only one responsible for your desire, and for the desire you awaken, not her. If you don't know how to inhabit your body, you can't inhabit anyone else's. If you don't know how to read a woman's body, she'll save herself for someone who can, because there's nothing more frustrating for a woman than being turned on and not being seen. Don't wait. The next time you notice that change in her skin, act, shift the tone, the rhythm, the space, but do it from your center, from clarity. Because the man who hesitates when she heats up is the same man who later wonders why he lost her. But now you know, you lost her in that exact second when she touched her neck, and you did nothing. Once you understand that a woman's body can heat up without warning, and that you, as a man, must be able to hold that fire without fear, without anxiety, without asking for permission, it's time to see the most brutal sign of all. The one almost no one recognizes, because it's not about what she does, it's about what she stops doing. When a woman has already crossed every line in her head, she won't always show it with obvious gestures. Sometimes she does the opposite. Sometimes, what changes is her gaze. We're at the 9th point of this video, the gaze she avoids when she's already surrendered. And this is where most men get confused, because when she looks down, laughs nervously, shifts her focus, you think she lost interest. You think she checked out, but no. What just happened is far more intense. She already imagined you inside her. She's already fantasized. She's already crossed the line. And now, she's ashamed, not of you, of herself, because her desire moved faster than her mask, because her body was more honest than her social role. So she hides. Not because she doesn't want it, but because she wanted it too much. And you, if you don't understand that, if instead of holding your ground you back away, if instead of leaning in, you pull out, you lose her. Again. This is where self-deception kicks in. This is where all the cheap excuses show up. I didn't want to make her uncomfortable. She seemed distracted. Maybe she was just tired. Lies. You didn't want to be uncomfortable. You didn't want to risk rejection. You didn't want to carry the weight of being a grounded man in front of a woman who had already let her guard down. The block wasn't hers. It was yours. In your head. In that little voice whispering, "Now's not the right time. I'm not sure. Maybe wait for a clearer sign." But the sign already came. The glance she avoided. The laugh she dodged. The tension she cut short. Those were her surrender. And you, out of fear, insecurity, or comfort, became the man who watched, but didn't act. Do you know what has to happen for you to stop justifying your hesitation? You have to picture the scene with brutal clarity. Picture her, an hour later, lying in bed, replaying that moment, thinking, "I opened up, and he didn't know what to do." And then, texting someone else, the one who read her gaze, the one who understood the code, the one who didn't wait for confirmation. And you're left as the nice guy, the sweet one, the safe one, but not the man she'll be thinking about tonight. That's the cost of not acting. You don't just lose a conversation, you lose her respect, you lose her desire, you lose your place as a man. Because a woman who avoids eye contact after fantasizing about you doesn't want comfort. She wants containment. She wants to be held. She wants to be dominated. She wants to know you already saw it, and that you're ready to take what she, in silence, already gave you. There are no excuses, no valid reason to keep giving away your power. If she avoided your gaze, it's because she already saw you in her body. And if you can't step into that role without flinching, without asking permission, without hiding behind logic, then you're not ready. Not for her, for yourself. Because the problem isn't her, it's your fear. And until you face it, you'll keep losing women who had already chosen you, but who you let slip away with your insecurity, with your silence, with your gaze that also turned away. Because when two gazes avoid each other, desire dies in the space between, and no one buries it. They just forget until someone else comes along who sees it and takes it without asking. If you've made it to the end of this video, you're no longer the same, because now you know, now you've seen what most choose to ignore. You've heard the signals a woman's body sends when it desires, signals almost no man knows how to read. And if after this you choose to keep acting the same way, you're no longer innocent. You're complicit, guilty of allowing that same story to repeat itself, where a woman wants you, but ends up giving herself to someone else. Not because he's better, but because you didn't dare to act. Not everyone makes it this far. Most leave in the first few minutes. They get offended. They get uncomfortable. They make excuses. Not you. You chose to face it head on, to listen without filters, to wake up. And that, whether you realize it yet or not, is a turning point. Because once you understand how the female body speaks, you can't make the same mistake again. You can't ignore the obvious. You can't keep being the man who doesn't see, who doesn't feel, who doesn't act. I want you to comment below with one simple phrase, "I am wisdom." And tell me what country you're watching from, because it doesn't matter your age, your story, or your background. When a man starts seeing clearly, he sees everything differently. He no longer waits for signals. He detects them. He no longer asks for permission. He moves. He no longer feels less. He feels in charge. I'm Celia, and this is your House of Wisdom. I'm not here to comfort you. I'm here to shake you, to give back the respect, the strength, the clarity you've lost after years of trying to please. Here, we speak truth, no sugarcoating, because only the man who's willing to hear uncomfortable truths can become the man a woman won't dare to walk away from. Subscribe now. This channel isn't for everyone. It's for those who are ready. And if you know a friend, a brother, a coworker who still doesn't understand why women keep turning him down, send him this video. Maybe he won't get it yet, but you'll plant a seed, and one day he'll wake up. Don't go just yet. Watch one of the videos now appearing on the screen, because the conversation doesn't end here. It's just beginning. And if this video showed you what the female body reveals, the next ones will show you how to respond with power. Because it's no longer about understanding women. It's about making them feel something when they're with you.